December 13th, 2014. I'm Dave.
I'm Seth.
This is the Biff Podcast. We're coming at you from the parking lot of a Dave & Buster's, from my car, and we're watching a family get in their minivan with the kids screaming.
Crying children everywhere.
And as a new parent, I'm seeing my future before my eyes. Can't wait till those days. Today is 12/13/14.
It's kind of neat.
You know, I've heard that people have done parties on 12/12/12 and 11/11/11. But I think this is kind of the last cool date like that.
Yeah, until
I think this is it.
85 years from now.
Then what would it be?
Well, you'll start back at...
it'd be in the year 21...
It'd be 2100, so
yeah.
You'd be back at 00.
Yeah.
So 86 years from now, you could have 01, 01, 01.
So it's going to be a while.
Yes.
You know, if my son, who was just born 4 months ago, lives to be 86... he will see the year 2100.
Yeah. He will.
If the human race hasn't destroyed itself by then.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so this podcast today it's going to be a great one. It's been in the works for a few weeks now. Topic of this Biff podcast is the dream of making it big. Making it big in the music business, that is. So, what does that even mean?
I think it just means that you're on MTV and you're on YouTube.
Maybe that's what it used to mean. I don't even know if musicians are still on MTV. I haven't watched in quite a while, but
I guess, I don't know. It's gone. That you can't make it big anymore.
Well, we're going to get into some of that. So what I got here is I got some interviews about this topic from some Biff-related people. Matt Alvord, Jon Frailey, who played Ashley De La Rue, Joe Dandurand, our fucking bass player, and Drew Chiacchieri, who has played on a Biff album and has been a longtime fan. So we're going to hear from those guys on this, and I also got a word from the original drummer, Cory Jensen. So, Matt, when I talked to him, he posed an interesting question, which was just do you, related to just what we're talking about, what does it mean to make it big? And he was like, when you were first starting out playing music, was there something you had in your mind, I know that we will have made it once we do X. For him, it was be on Conan O'Brien.
Really?
Yeah, because I guess he watched that when he was a teen, growing up.
Mm-hmm.
That was the show he always watched, and he thought, it's kind of an obscure show on real late. At least it was back then. And he thought that was somewhat attainable, and that once he had done that, then he would know that he's made it.
Interesting. That's a very specific event.
So did you have any idea of what making it, how would you know that you made it?
I would know that I made it in more general terms. Basically, if I was earning a living playing just music.
Yeah.
And if I could tour any town and fill up in a hall or an auditorium with people wanting to hear my music, that would say to me that I've made it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely reasonable. So here's let's check out Matt and I were talking about on this topic. Here's Matt Alvord on what does it mean to make it big, and my response. To answer your question, I guess for me, what making it big in my head was just doing what I saw all my favorite bands doing, which was having videos on MTV, playing at places like the Ogden Theater in Denver or Red Rocks.
You didn't have a specific
signed to a major record label, I guess.
Did you have a specific tours. Thing when you thought of like
what? How do I know when we've really made it?
Yeah, or you know, like when you could picture, you know, Biff or Abscess being successful. What was that to you?
I think I kind of like with you with Conan. It was definitely for me. It was more Saturday Night Live. So that was something I watched a lot. And they always had bands on that. So definitely the TV spot, the playing at the certain venue. Like I saw a lot of shows at Red Rocks in the Ogden, so definitely playing when Abscess played at the Bluebird, that was such a huge deal because that was
awesome. That was fun.
Really felt like we were getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else specific come to mind for you after that, hearing that idea? Like, was there any TV show that you always wish that you could have played on, or
honestly, not at all.
Any venue?
No, I never viewed it in that manner. I always thought it would be a succession of events that would occur. I don't see like just one specific event causing me to decide, oh, now I've made it. It was more, it'd be more like a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, it wouldn't just happen instantly.
Right.
Okay. So you started playing music a little bit later than I think the rest of us did.
A lot later, probably, yeah. 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, so we were 14, 15 when we first started.
Right.
So the next big focus that I wanted to cover here was the big dreams of teenagers. Because when you're first starting out, you're so ignorant to the world at large in general. You don't know how things work. And at least I absolutely believed with all my heart that we indeed had what it took to make it, and that we indeed would.
Well, good for you. That's an important point of view to have if you want to have any hope of making it.
Yeah, and looking back, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, it was great to feel that empowered.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's okay. How naive you were, though.
Yeah, for sure. So first, I have a clip here from Joe. I asked him just if he had any of these kind of similar thoughts about big dreams. Here's Joe Dandurand. I'm putting together a podcast that's kind of exploring my delusions as a teenager. Basically, in that I really believed that I was going to be a rock star. And that we were really going to make it.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering if you had any similar thoughts. Be honest, goddammit.
Let's say I never thought it would ever be anything big. I did it for fun.
Yeah, as did I.
But I never had any illusion or thought that, yeah, we can make it, or I don't even think I even wanted to do it. But if it was going to happen, I guess it'd be okay, but I guess I never really strived for it.
So you were open to it, but you weren't expecting anything to come of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And did you ever get the sense that I felt any differently, like I was expecting more?
Oh, yeah. No, I thought you thought it was going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And rock stardom, here we come. But,
yeah. See, I'm basically thinking children are able to have big dreams because they're ignorant.
Yeah, the rest of the world hasn't beaten them down yet.
Right, and no one was like necessarily beating me down, telling me I was dreaming and I was never gonna do it. Wow, Joe, what a realist!
Lying son of a bitch.
Come on, man. You knew you didn't even want it to happen. I don't know about that, buddy. But you're not here to argue, so we won't get into that too much. Yeah, so I think Joe kind of, we covered it there. I really thought we were awesome, and that, what's so funny is we were fucking horrible. Like, there's an earlier Biffcast where I played some of our first music, and it was bad.
But you guys got good.
Yeah, but it takes more than just being good.
Oh yeah, a lot more.
But you do have kind of a false sense of ability, and that's actually something in this next clip with Jon Frailey. He talks about that kind of idea that when it starts out, it seems so easy, or you feel successful right away, so you really think it's going to go somewhere. Here's a clip from John. Been playing since you were a teenager, like us, and
20 years.
And so, what can you say about? Do you have some big dreams? And like, because for me, I thought we were going to be the biggest fucking thing. I was pretty certain
in high school.
Yeah, especially when we first started playing. It's hilarious to look back and see how horrible we were, and remembering back then how awesome I thought we were.
Yeah, I remember. See, I think the thing is, like, when you start writing music and playing those songs in a band, it's not that hard, really. So you get a couple songs, and it sounds like real music,
Yeah.
You sound like a real band, and that's
we're really doing this.
Yeah, it's super empowering, and and so it's easy to then think that, of course, someone's just going to come discover you, and it's
bound to happen. It's just the next logical
right
step.
I remember thinking that, like, I was in this punk band in high school, and that we would be, I didn't think that we were going to be millionaires and stuff, but we looked up to, like, Lagwagon, and those guys all made good livings just playing in bands, and I thought that was for sure going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, we didn't really try all that hard to, like, build a name for ourselves or anything. Like, we did write songs, and we practiced, and we played some shows, and we recorded and stuff. But we never really had any, like, opportunities.
All right, so that's pretty much what I was just saying. Like, you kind of think that it's going to be way easier than it really is. And you really don't have any concept of what it takes.
Right.
And I don't know if you did when you were starting out.
So I think my perspective would be a little bit different, because I wasn't a high school kid playing in a band. I was a 19, 20-year-old, but I was an adult.
Already had some real world experience.
Right.
At that point.
So I did share the optimistic viewpoint that I could make it happen, but I knew at that point that it was going to be incredible hard work and take a tremendous amount of luck, and just basically the bands that we were listening to some of them had the do-it-yourself mentality. So
the punk rock kind of thing.
Right. So I wasn't thinking like signed to a record label and somebody is gonna watch us play and save us. I was thinking, okay, if we spend 22 hours per day every day working on this, there's a small chance we might be able to do it. But even working hard, I realized pretty quickly that hard work is it takes a lot more than just that.
Yeah, and that's something that we do get into a little bit later, is just the biggest reason why it's so hard is that there's so many people doing it.
Right.
As I say, it's a saturated market.
Absolutely, yeah.
Literally millions of bands.
Oh, yeah.
Just in our country alone.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get more into that. But interesting, with Jon there, like, had a more practical idea, like maybe not being a millionaire, but being able to make a living at it, and to some people that would be making it big.
Right.
And I would agree with that now too. Next up, we're gonna hear from Drew. Just a little short clip here. It's kind of cute, just talking about like when he first started his band. It's funny, and it kind of ties in with this like kind of false sense of ability and superiority.
Drew, such a cutie.
Drew Chiacchieri.
Before Forsaken Code, I remember I had a neighbor that was a little younger than I was, and we would go and hang out during the summers and like watch MTV together and stuff. And we were like, dude, what if we started a band up, So like the idea kind of started when we were pretty young, and that we could be rock stars too. Like, he was really into that Fountains of Wayne band back then.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then like Bush was a big influence back then too, and we were like, okay, so let's go to the store and get, go to the Guitar Center and get a bass, and I'll get a bass and you get a guitar, and then we'll have a band. And so we plugged in, I remember, to his dad's like old school stereo with our 1/4-inch cables. It was just us, like. And I remember I had just got my license, and I had to go pick my sister up from somewhere, and I was like, we got to be fast because Nathan and I have band practice. Like,
yeah.
It was just like the two of us in his dad's basement.
Yeah, we gotta go. We've got band practice.
Band practice.
That's great. But it's true. Like, you feel like such a badass when you're first starting a band. Like, it feels like a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I've always been lucky enough to have. I mean, I have literally had a band together since I was 14 years old, and I'm 33 now,
nice.
With no gaps there. Like, it's taking it for granted, kind of, that I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that play music that don't consistently have people to play with that want to do it.
Right. Tons of people out there that don't have that opportunity.
And I think you've been through that a little bit, like, before. Well, you had some bands that didn't really work out or something, right?
Yeah. I've had a couple bands. Yeah, I was in a band with Jeremy Donahue and this guy named Chase Musser, and that did not work out. And I jammed with a couple of old roommates a couple times, and that did definitely not work out. So yeah, I know what you mean. There was definitely times when I was playing music a lot and I wasn't in a band and I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But there's also been a lot of times when I have been in a band and didn't want to be. So.
Well, there's I guess it all balances out then, but that's a part of this I hadn't thought of until now, but it just having a band that gets together regularly and writes decent music, even that in itself can be very difficult.
Sure.
So we're kind of ahead of ourselves here. This next part is, I got another clip from Drew up next, and we're just talking more about teenage ignorance and thinking that it would be easy. And really, I think I mentioned here, it's like winning the lottery, basically. It is, the chances are so slim, because it's not just like buying a ticket for a lottery. You have to put in work. Yeah, you have to put in so much work, and then the chances are still so slim.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are.
Right.
I mean, if you have, there's people who have written like the right song for the right period of time that got heard by the right people, and then it all carried them very far, but it's still a 1 in a million shot that's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you take like the educational route and you become a schooled professional musician, you could probably find a job anytime you want, but it's not like you're going to be making, you'll be playing music full time for studio bands or whatever. You'll be making $20,000 a year, something like that.
Yeah. Poverty.
Yep.
Okay, so here's Drew with some more on basically realizing how much work it is to be in a functioning band. Forsaken Toad days, do you think, looking back, you didn't know what it took, or you thought it would be easy, or
right? Like there was this thought that like we would ride the wave of change, so to speak, and like people would just like be wanting it, and they would hear it, and it would just be like, oh man, that's awesome, But yeah,
like you did the next Nirvana or something.
Exactly, like just a real ignorant like vision of what we wanted it to be versus like the actual effort we put in to get it out there. Because like, I mean, we practiced all the time, but nobody was hearing those practices. And then, and then there's obviously, like, as when you're young and starting up, you're still not the best at playing those instruments and stuff, and your songwriting isn't the best. And, it's like a fine wine, it gets better as it ages.
It's almost like, it's odd to say the innocence of a child, because
right.
When you're a teenager, you don't think of yourself as a child anymore, but from our vantage point now, 15 plus years later, we're like, yeah, we were dumb kids. Like, we didn't know what we were up against at all. But we had big dreams, big, beautiful dreams, and it was fun to imagine what was going to happen or what could happen.
Right. And I think, like, of the, like, teenage high school visionaries, I feel like you guys in Biff had something good going where you, like, made up your own record label and, like, did, like, the Christmas album thing and, like, played as much as you could. I remember years ago playing at the Cricket on the Hill with you guys.
Sure.
Joe said something to me, like, that's always stuck with me. And he's like, if you want to get hurt, you got to play out a lot, and, like, cause I think you guys are averaging, like, 2 shows a month or something, and I was like, man, that's a ton of work. Because, like, I remember with Electric Ordinary, we would, on show days, we would meet at Neil's house, figure out our set list. This was, like, hours before we even needed to get there for load-in. Figure out the set list, play the set list all the way through, then start the process of breaking everything down, packing it up, driving it, like, to the venue, unloading it all, then, like, figuring out what we wanted to do for, like, dinner, if that was an option, and then wait around for 3 hours after the show started to go play,
Yeah.
So I just remembered it being a real, like, arduous process, and that was one thing that I think when I was younger, not really realizing, like, was, like, the effort that it took to play shows, even at the local level, to be consistent. And that, I think, that growth is, you could find success in that, but even beyond that, it's like almost impossible, I think. But you know, it's just like I just said, like timing and knowing somebody or people, you know.
Yeah, and I was thinking. Okay, so we just got distracted because there's more screaming children walking around us. What did the kid say?
The first kid that was crying, he was like, I didn't get to play enough video games.
That's awesome.
It was great. His dad's probably beating him right now.
Well, so that was Drew there again. Just talking a little bit about his experience with just trying to keep a band together and achieve some measure of success, even in a local scene. Even that can be very challenging. Even that we haven't really ever accomplished.
Yeah.
I think going back to the first question, for me, a huge thing about making it big is like when you actually have fans that aren't just friends.
Right.
I mean, we absolutely so appreciate all of our friends that are also our fans, but we certainly have not had many just fans. You know, it's all, you know. So in this next clip from Jon, we bring up Silverchair.
Silverchair.
And those dudes really went a long way for me in this whole thing because they were only a few years older than us. And so I saw them being huge and thinking like, well, shit, if they could do it, so could I.
They were like, what, 16 when Frog Stomp came out?
15 or 16, yeah.
Wow.
And they were certainly like a phenomenon, like the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know of any other teenage band that was as big as or as good as them. Who knows? But so here's another little clip about some of that stuff and more teenage cockiness kind of thing. I mean, just I guess back then it was ignorance. Like I had no idea back then like what it took to make it.
Yeah.
And I know the music business has changed tremendously, but still the fact remains it's pretty much like winning the lottery.
Well, yeah, I mean there's all different ways to make yourself a career in music, and I think what you want to get down to is like what's going to give you the best odds at a career, and I think that hasn't really changed. Like if you go out and play shows every single night and your band rehearses every single day and you tour,
yeah, and you just constantly
and you can
expose yourself.
Yeah, you can write decent songs. That's still the best way to do it. There are still people who get careers just at age 16 recording songs in their bedroom, like Lord.
Yeah.
And like, you know, whoever, like Silverchair, when we were in high school, they were our age and they were like superstars.
I'm glad you brought them up because they were my big example of like,
they can do it.
Yeah, and they were only like 1 or 2 years older than me at the time, so I'm like, yeah.
And that is like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
In those cases, those should not be, no one should look to that as like, oh, that could happen to me. Like, you're definitely better off just busting your ass forever.
And I mean, Silverchair was probably a special exception. They were like the exception, not the rule. I mean, they were pretty amazing for their age.
Yeah, right.
Compared to most other.
And I don't know what their story is and whose attention they got a hold of.
Yeah.
Because when you're 15, like, nobody's ready for that, are you?
No.
I mean, almost nobody.
No, they must have had somebody really to tutor them along.
But I do think that's part of why, what you said about, you know, you didn't know any better, I do think that's part of why most, like, successful bands and musicians tend to be young, like, real young. Because you do have that cockiness.
Yeah, that I can do anything.
That life beats out of most people, you know. By the time you're 30, most people have given up because it's terrifying and it's much safer to just have a full-time job with benefits and just do that for the rest of your life. So, yeah, I think that's part of why young people, that confidence carries you a long way. People pick up on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And certainly I had that confidence.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the talent to back it up.
Yeah, I'd agree. Same thing. Especially like my band was all right. You know, there were some good musicians and like we had some good songs, but oh my God, like my lyrics. I still to this day think about some of the lyrics I wrote like when I was a junior in high school.
Yeah,
like,
I had some bad ones too.
It's so embarrassing. I had no life experience and, you know, trying to write deep stuff and.
Yeah, you just grab onto whatever you get a hold of that sounds decent.
Yeah. Oh, and it was just meaningless nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some of those. Okay, so some good points there. Guess I'm not sure what they were now. Sorry, I was distracted again.
I was thinking about something too. I was thinking about Silverchair actually. I mean, some record label must have just found those kids and been like, we can exploit these kids. You know, they're 16. That was part of their appeal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That they were 16. They were these cute 16-year-old Australian kids.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you wonder how much production helped them.
Oh,
you know, like,
I'm sure a lot.
I still believe it's them playing the instruments and stuff.
Sure, yeah. But someone decided how long their hair should be and what clothes they should wear and, you know, what kind of effects pedals they should use and shit like that.
Yeah. Well, another point John made there about like the hopefulness or whatever that gets beat out of you as you age. I think that, you know, there's some people that like just like have the connections and they ride to the top pretty easily. But I'd say most people that make it have some kind of like hunger inside them, like they'll make it big or die trying kind of thing, like the passion and the fearlessness like just never goes away.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of incredible stories about that, like that are out there.
Sure. I think that's what those guys in urban life kind of had. They were, at least Joe, he was like so driven, so motivated. If you told him like, you know, it's not realistic that you're going to make it, he would tune out long before you got those words out. Like he wasn't trying to hear it, and he was able to put in the amount of work required, and they didn't reach stardom, but they were definitely very big around the local scene. And had he had more time, I think it's possible that something could have come of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they literally, like, they put in the work, like, all day, every day. They lost their jobs, they quit their jobs, and they decided they were going to spend all their time doing music, and it was beginning to pay off for them. So. That's
awesome. For me, I like to think that I had, like, the passion it took, but I had way too much fear. Yeah. Especially as I got older. Like, too much fear, like, how am I going to pay my bills and like, what's expected of me, like, to go to college and whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
You just have to, you know, just decide those things aren't nearly as important.
So, next up is some discussion about what's changed over the last 20 years in the music business. Like, because that first question we asked, what does it making it big even mean? What does it take to make it big? All that's like changed. So a lot of it's the same, but with the internet and the technology available to make recordings, a lot of things have changed. And that's something Matt brought up. So here's some stuff.
How do you feel about the new era of music and online, you know, the lack of studios, and like, what's your opinion? Because mine is, I hear a lot of people, everyone seems to have this belief that now that with the internet there's this evening of the playing field, that that smaller bands suddenly have so much more you know, potential to make it big. And I totally disagree with that. I don't think that's right at all.
I think of it as the same way as with podcasts. And I'm a huge podcast guy. I listen to a lot of them. But back in the day, the only way to have something similar to a podcast now is to be on the radio. And only a selective few got that. But now everyone and their brother has a podcast.
Right.
So you're just dealing with a completely saturated market, even more so than it used to be. And yeah, technology has allowed for bands to make recordings that they never would have been able to in the past, and to have them available to the entire world, but who's listening?
Exactly.
Like,
that's exactly how I feel. It's like, just because you can record yourself and put it online, that doesn't mean anything. And in fact, what it means is that going through that effort, and if you in doing it right and making it sound good, almost doesn't even matter, because as much as it used to. Like, it used to be that if you could put together a good CD that sounded good and the songs were good, and you distributed that, like, that was, you know, that was
really
something
significant.
Yeah. Now that doesn't even fucking matter. And what really sucks is that the criteria for getting big is no longer, it's even less important how good your music is. It's now about going viral. It's about, you know, the qualities that it takes for a band to go viral are totally different from the qualities of a good, you know, band that's making good music. They're completely separate. So having an awesome, you know, funny or sexy music video, that's what really gets hits online.
You know, it makes me think of Red Fang. So I feel, I mean, they're awesome. I love them, but I attribute most of their fame to their viral music videos that they put out.
And I mean, that's a case where I think we both would agree that Red Fang is a good band, and those videos are unique, and they came up with, they had some good ideas, and they executed them well, and they're fun to watch. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you're right. I mean, we wouldn't know about that band if not for their witty, you know, music videos, and that's kind of sad, because they're a good rock band. And that's what makes me think that there's plenty of great musicians out there making great music that we will never hear, simply because they don't have the capacity to make themselves viral. Or the other thing is, maybe you do, but you just don't go viral. Only so many. That's the thing, is now Louis C.K. talks about how now we have to make one choice as a nation as to what is good. We have to, like, you know, at any given time, there's really only like 3 or 4 big acts, maybe a little bit more, every year that make it big, you know? And that's because
they become household names, basically. So big that even your mom's heard of them. Yeah.
But I guess not even just that big, but to be profitable as a musician, like, you have to, it's all or nothing, you know? Like, either you're going to get huge or no one's going to hear you.
You got to sell concert tickets to make money. So what does it take to go viral, though? See, I was thinking, like, you have to have material that's either so amazingly good or so hilariously funny, or something that somebody watches it and immediately shares it with someone else, and it has to just keep going like that.
Well, and that's the thing, is that is kind of goes back to what you were saying, because there is a lot of luck there. I mean, it takes a certain amount of the right people that like your thing to then go and share it with their friends, and you know.
So we're still hoping for that perfect 5 minutes with Biff episode that just fires on all cylinders.
So that's why when people say, yeah, it's way better now because studios aren't involved. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, it's not like it was great before. It sucked before, because before it was like you had the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers were these music reps, but
the possibilities are endless now, but they're still slim.
At least back then there was some quality control. Like, labels weren't just going to go for bands that, might have a witty music video or something. They're going to look for bands that they think are marketable and that, you would hope are genuinely good bands. And that doesn't even enter the equation anymore. It's about what is viral. That's why you see all these.
What's viral, Seth?
I don't know.
Not us.
Not us.
But I think we have potential to be viral.
Yeah.
It's really interesting points Matt brought up there. It's
I think
it's a strange new world.
But some of these videos that go viral, do they really guarantee that whoever made that video is going to get any money from that? Like, if someone...
Not unless you have monetary shit with YouTube set up, I guess.
Right. But
even still, it probably...
There's so many other places you could see a music video. YouTube's not the only place. I don't know.
Well, I think that going viral must only be the first step. Like, there's probably some steps you need to take on the coattails of that.
Yeah.
In order to keep it going, to really make money or keep the fame, to make it last longer than the 15 minutes, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with what Matt was saying. I don't think that making it big is even applicable anymore to music, because you can just hear music for free. I haven't paid for music in years, many years.
Yeah. Matt and I were actually talking about that, about how it's interesting that you might be willing to pay like $5 to download a movie and watch it once, but it's a stretch to like pay $5 to download an album, which you're going to listen to many times and get much more enjoyment out of it. It's just a weird phenomenon how that happens.
Yeah, so I don't see how...
I am your father.
Oh. Sorry, my dad's calling me.
I just don't see how bands can make money, even the best bands. The only bands that are making money are bands that have been around for 40 years and they're touring arenas. Like, U2 and Bruce Springsteen are still touring and making tons of money. Not Guns N' Roses. That fucking, what are they called? Bon Jovi,
yeah.
Lady Gaga. Those bands fucking still make money, but I just don't see new bands coming up making money.
Well,
I
you
don't
have
know
to
how
be
they
able to
will.
sell tickets in order to make any money.
Right, but...
Or get royalties from being in a movie or something.
Sure, but even the new music that I hear, not a lot of it, like, I'm like, okay, this music's really good, and I didn't pay a dime to listen to it, and I am enjoying it, but I don't know if I want to go see this band. I don't know.
Well, it's so fucking expensive to see a concert anymore.
Right.
But it makes me think of the other part of this is like some of those bands that have already been established, like back in at least the 90s and beyond, like Radiohead.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I understand it, they kind of got out from under their record contract and just went out on their own. And because they already have all the fans, like, they're able to just put out their own music on their own terms and keep all the money for it.
Right.
They don't need the distributor anymore. They don't need the middleman.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a band, hypothetically, if a band these days could, you know, because you can, with the technology out there, you can afford to record your own album. You can put it on the internet, which costs nothing. You might not make any money from people getting it, but if you somehow went viral or gained enough fans, then you could do the whole thing by yourself without ever being signed to a record label.
But that's the thing, that a band that goes that route is missing one thing. The fans. They don't have any fans. No one knows about them. No one gives a shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though.
That's partly what the record label does, is they get your music out there for you.
Right, they get it to the record stations. They get you on MTV or whatever. But what I'm saying is, with the internet and with technology, somebody can make their own album, make their own video, put it online, and if it has that ingredient, or if it's just like they're lucky enough to go viral, then they gain the exposure, they gain the fans, and then if they just hire some kind of an agent to book the tour, then that's all you need. It seems. I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe. But when you put stuff out online by yourself, like, how many people really see that? Like, we've been putting shit online for years. Nobody fucking looks at it.
That goes back to something else I've talked with some of these guys. It's like self-promotion has always been something that we've sucked at.
Oh yeah.
And it's the same thing on the internet. Like, how do you promote yourself? Again, I just think it's like if you catch enough people's eye that they share it, if your shit is good enough for somebody to want to share it with somebody.
Yeah.
Like, if you just get in there with that, I think it could happen. So, I don't know, interesting stuff. Like, it's not necessarily any easier now. In a lot of ways it's harder, but at least one cool thing is technology's made it so that we can all record our own albums for nothing, next to nothing. So that's great.
Yeah. I love recording music. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And now anybody can experience that. It's cool for sure.
Yeah. So I'll just go ahead and play these next two clips from Jon and Drew. Just more stuff about, like, what it takes to make it and kind of their ideas and suggestions. It's kind of like some stuff that they would say to any kids starting out today. So here's Jon and Drew.
I will say too that I think it's gotten more. I think that more kids play now than did when I was in high school. Like, there was only a couple of bands in our high school.
Yeah.
And it was not a very small high school either. But so just being in a band, like, people like talked about us and stuff.
Yeah. And it's just like anything else. There's so many people doing it. That's why it's so hard to really make it anywhere. Like, it's gotten harder as time has gone by. Like, if you go back to the 1940s or 50s, like, there were not that many people in bands.
Right.
How many? I mean, in just the United States, what do you think? Hundreds of thousands? What's your guess?
Oh, I would millions.
Millions?
I'd say millions of rock bands. I've tried to do the math because if there's...
I mean, let's not even say rock bands. Let's just say people who make music, you know.
Yeah, music groups.
Hip-hop kids, the techno guys, like, whatever.
Right, so if there's 300 million people,
Every 1 in 5 is in a band.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds
so
about right.
What's that? That would be 15 million people in bands divided by 3. So 5 million bands, roughly, give or take.
Sure. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And they're all somewhere on the internet doing
and
their thing.
they all like us, they all think that it's a good idea, and that, like, this might go somewhere.
Yeah. Like, I just wonder, like, Bandcamp has popped up in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And it seems to be like everyone who's heard of it has Bandcamp.
Yep.
So I wonder just how many are on there.
Yeah, and Reverb Nation, everybody seems to have one of those, and Facebook page. It used to be MySpace, right?
Sure.
Every band had a MySpace.
Yeah. And that was pretty cool at the time. Like,
yeah.
I mean, still, I don't know if I could do all the things that I do in Biff if it weren't for the internet. Because, like, I'd make these 5 minutes with Biff videos and show them, have a screening at my house.
Yes.
With 10 people show
Right.
up, and then that'd be the end of it.
Yeah.
Or, maybe distribute the DVDs, but like...
Yeah, you'd have to put VHS versions on consignment at Wax Tracks.
Yeah. And now a whole 24 people watch it, on YouTube.
Just like 24/7, 365, like I'm promoting my craft, my art and stuff, and it's when you have a life going on outside of that, it kind of gets in the way,
Yeah, you have to be real focused.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you think as far as what does it take to make it?
I think it does take talent, but also takes connections and like just timing with anything. Like any job you ever have, it's like if there's a need at that moment, like for that type of music, if you're in a market where there's already a bunch of hard rock bands, what about you is going to make you stand out to be unique? And is it your show, your live performance? And like we were actually looking at making like stage props and like artistic pieces, kind of like a bigger band would do to have more visualization at a show. But
yeah,
that was like money and time and effort that none of us had or wanted to have anything to do with. But it was definitely an avenue we were starting to go down. And I actually have some giant like boards that I had made with EO all over them to just like prop up on the stage just so people see your name, we played one of the few like theater shows we played was at the Oriental Theater, and they had a projection screen that they let people not broadcast, but project their band's logos and stuff on there. And that wasn't included in the knowledge of the venue prior to that, but one of the headlining acts, they had that, and it was just a nice, simple touch, but it helped identify and make the band look a little more professional. I think it's like those kinds of touches that that can help set you apart from the masses in the local band scene.
Stand out more, be memorable.
Right.
So, thinking back. Okay, so there's some. Perhaps you could consider that some words of wisdom. What would you say to any kid musicians thinking they're gonna make it these days?
Funny you should ask. I would say, hey kids, listen. Give up. Don't put your instruments away. Throw them away. Sell them. Fucking put them on Craigslist and sell those shits. Okay? Study hard in school. Don't necessarily obey your parents if your parents are dicks or something like that. But yeah, just find a trade, find a job that you will want to do, and find it young, and just work at that forever. Music, you're not gonna make it, so don't fucking even try.
Yeah, see, I would tell them the trade route, because like plumbers make a lot of fucking money.
Yeah, they do. Find something that you think you could do. That if you think it's fun when you're a kid, and you keep it'll be good. It'll be a good job when you're an adult.
Yeah. Well, so we have one more topic to cover, and this is my favorite one. I've got some commentary from Matt, Joe, John, and Joe here. All right, so more than anything, I started a band, or when I started a band, I knew, without a doubt, that being in a band would get me all kinds of girlfriends. holy shit, was I wrong. I was wrong. Did you ever think that?
Yes, I did. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I did. I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I think you can definitely meet a lot of chicks playing music. There are chicks who just who like musicians for sure. I don't think I ever met any of them, but they exist.
Well, I think at least Biff repels women. Always has. Here's what Matt thinks about this. I mentioned in the email, I definitely thought that being in bands was going to get me girls.
Yeah.
So that was probably my biggest fantasy, was like having, not necessarily groupies, but just like totally getting a smoking hot girlfriend because of my band.
Yeah. That never ever happened. Like, there was one time, I think the closest that we ever got, at least in Apsis or in any of our bands, Biff, I mean, fucking zero.
Biff repelled women.
Yeah.
It does to this day.
That was never even an option. But in Apsis, there were a couple of opportunities, I guess. But the best one,
the chick at the Isle Park Saloon, right?
well, yeah.
You were like, just tell her I'm gay.
Yeah. That wasn't the one I was thinking of, because that one was like a friend of a friend, so that almost doesn't even really count, because it was someone that we mutually, through, I think, Cory or somebody, we knew this person. But there was one time, I think we were playing in Greeley, and there was a girl that was, I vaguely remember her either hitting on Cory or myself, and and we weren't interested.
It was a place called Scooters, and I just remember her hitting on Cory. And I remember that show because Cory had on overalls. Right. I think he was just wearing overalls and no shirt.
Yeah.
Just kind of call back to some Nebraskan roots there, but
yeah, that's right. He was getting hit on, but he wanted nothing to do with her. So I think I played wingman a little bit with them.
All right, so yeah, Matt, who of course is a former member of Biff, knows you're not getting too many chicks being in this band. One of my favorite stories from high school, and this related to this topic, is so around the time when we did the first album, Bifforama, it was a cool new, it was just the beginning of all this technology we're talking about. Like I bought this digital multi-track recorder, we had a CD burner, like it was all happening. And for the time, we had decent recording and stuff. So it was really cool. So we were distributing this album, and there was this girl that I was kind of trying to talk to. I think her name was Chrissy. I don't even remember her last name at all or anything like that. But so I handed her this Biff CD, and I was so close to asking her out, but I figured I'll give her the CD and then we'll see what she thinks, and if she seems to like it, then I'll proceed. So I handed it to her, and she's just like, oh, cool. And she asked me, is it sensual music? Or something like that. And I don't remember what I said, but she never fucking talked to me again after that.
You should have taken it back and been like, yes, will you go out with me?
Yeah, so, yeah, for the most part, okay, so next we have this clip of John, and he brings up a point that playing in a band does, it's something that hopefully you like about yourself and you feel good about, and kind of boost your self-esteem. So maybe it gives you a little extra confidence to go ahead and ask that girl out, if you stuff like that. That's probably, I think, the best that we could hope for as far as getting girls from being in a band. Here's a clip from John on this one.
No, not really. I never getting in a band was never like, oh, this is gonna get me girls. No. Like my high school girlfriend.
I'm not saying that's the only reason why you did it, or that was the
no,
goal.
No, definitely not. Well, for me, I really struggle in my life with like talking to people and socializing and relating to other people, and so music is really great for that because that's the way that I can express myself to the world in a way that I feel comfortable. And it's super fucking loud, so I don't have to exactly talk to people and stuff. Yeah. And so I think that like in that sense, I've definitely had girls like I found out they had a crush on me or maybe something like that after they saw me play, but I don't think it ever like turned into anything.
But it could have given you that extra confidence to go up to him.
Maybe maybe.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's about all I can say too, is that it gave me a little bit of an edge. Yeah,
it's something that I like about myself, and definitely girls I dated, like we talk about music and stuff like that. But it was never like I was just so irresistible because of my stage presence.
Right. But for the most part, I've found that being in bands has repelled women from me.
Yes. Right.
Especially after you get past a certain age, when girls turn into women and they realize, oh, I don't want to be with some jack off musician who's God knows high on what and like can't hold a job and has got a gig.
Yeah, everybody has way different perceptions of what it means to be in a band, especially people who have never played in a band. Like I think that a lot of people, if you say that you're in a band, they think that it's just like drugs and partying and
like especially in the last 5 years, at least 5 years of my life, like professionally, when people find out I'm in a band, they're like, really?
Yeah.
No way.
Right. Yes. Like my girlfriend now, I remember she was kind of had reservations. Like she thought, it's just like, I don't know what her fantasy of what rock bands are like, but Poison in the 1980s or something, just like incredible excess and orgies and stuff. And I'm like, wait, no, you don't understand. Like all the bands I grew up listening to, these people are like nerds. There's no sex in it at all ever. I remember one time a man hit on me after a Worry Men show. I think that was the only time I was ever like directly, like right after a show, that somebody was like, "Oh, that was hot."
Yeah. So that's another good point. Is like, most at some point, girls don't want. They'd be a little standoffish about dating a musician.
Yeah, but we're just talking about having sex with girls.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think playing music, theoretically, that would give a girl an excuse to come up to you, because girls never approach me ever. They don't approach guys. You have to approach them.
Right.
But if a girl sees you playing in a band and she either likes you or your music, she has an excuse to go up to you and say, "Hey, that was really good," even if she's just lying. But like, there you are talking to a girl afterwards. Where it goes after that is kind of up to you, but at least it opens the door. Because that has happened where girls, attractive looking girls, have said, "Hey, that was good, a good show," or whatever, and I didn't necessarily know who they were. And I usually would just be like, "Thanks," and run away. But that it could go somewhere, potentially.
Yeah.
If you're smooth, which I'm not.
I once dated a woman for 8 months. She never saw my band play.
Who was that?
It was Lisa.
Oh.
Lisa 2.
Lisa 2?
Yeah. Anyway, so we got one more clip from Joe. God damn it, Joe. Once again.
You're a fuckhead, Joe. Just want you to know that.
Here's what Joe has to say on this topic.
I got so much pussy.
the other thing that I definitely thought when we started the band was that being in the band was going to get us more girls, more girlfriends, and that was definitely not the case.
Nope.
If anything, it repelled women.
Well, yeah, I don't know. That's a strange thing. I guess I didn't even think that when we were playing. I didn't. Sure, it was in the back of my mind, but I never thought it was going to happen. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Even then, the idea of having a girlfriend was fucking stupid to me.
Yeah.
Not so much as it is now.
A little has changed.
Oh yeah.
So, Joe,
He's a wise man. I
You know,
have to admit.
Joe is a wise man. I would be willing to argue, though, that his high school girlfriend that he hooked up with, went to prom with and whatnot our senior year,
Mm-hmm.
I think that being in Biff kind of attracted her. I think she dug the whole thing.
She dug Joe's chops.
Yeah. Bass chops and mutton. Or sideburns, whatever. So, damn it, Joe. I think you're the king of the hill on this one.
Yeah. He's gotten a girl playing music.
I
He's
think
the only one.
I would argue that is the case.
Wow.
Okay, well, so we're gonna wrap this up here. Last question. You know, is the dream still alive?
For me personally,
Just for
or for anyone.
for us in general, for you. You know, like the thing it makes me think of, I'm a huge fan of the band Morphine.
Mm-hmm.
And those dudes like didn't start getting big and they were in their late 40s. You know, like maybe he was a little bit younger than that, but still 40s. Like it could still happen, but are we holding our breath? I don't think so.
Yeah, I have absolutely no aspirations to make it big in music anymore. It was always a struggle for me to be in a room playing music for people. I always felt so uncomfortable. I would have to drink a bunch just to be like, okay, I can do this. And just before, during, and after, I was never very comfortable. So, yeah, I have no desire to make it big playing music whatsoever.
Well, I'm open to it, but I'm not expecting anything. I would just be happy, like, seeing, you know, having some fans instead of just the friend thing, you know, like.
Yeah.
Not that, you know, again, I appreciate all of our friends / our friends, but I think that would be cool. So I'm gonna read. I when I was asking people if they wanted to weigh in on this stuff, Cory Jensen wrote me an email with his response. Here it is. I too was certain I would make it as a musician / rock star. I really didn't even consider the chance of failure. Truly, one of the only regrets of my life was coming to realize I hadn't tried hard enough in promoting Apsis. I solely relied on Dave to put out the word, book the shows, and gather the masses, quote unquote. It wasn't until about 2 years after Apsis had split that I realized that I hadn't done my part, which had in turn greatly diminished our odds. I feel like Apsis was the epitome of our musical talent, and that yes, we were good enough to make it. But we had squandered the chance by not promoting ourselves effectively or making good enough contacts that could further our cause. I had been blind because I enjoyed playing so much that it didn't matter if we were big or not. and I thought things would just fall into place because of our greatness. I did not realize I was lazy until it was too late. My heart was surely broken when I decided to stop playing, but tensions were high and it was getting harder and harder to enjoy. If I had one chance to go back and change anything I've done in my life, it would be this. Sincerely, Cory Jensen.
Well, so it's not too late for him. I mean, like you were just saying, Morphine, they were 40 when they made it.
Yeah.
Don't give up your dreams, Cory Jensen.
Let's get Apsis back together. We can still do it. Yeah. We've talked about this kind of stuff with him before, so I know where he's coming from.
If I could say one more thing about something I previously said.
Sure.
I sort of take that back. When we did our little mini tour, I had a blast, and I was even playing with a broken hand, but I enjoyed myself every second of that tour.
Yeah, me too.
So I would be open to like weekend trips to go play out of state. I would do that, but that is I don't know.
Yeah.
You could make it big doing that, couldn't you?
You could make it. I mean, I'm sure there's crazy stories about people making it big just randomly and such happenstance and right place, right time. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the 42nd episode of the Biffcast. Thanks a lot for joining me, Seth, and weighing in on this stuff.
My pleasure.
Thanks to Matt, Drew, John, and Joe for your contribution, and Cory. And look forward to more 5 Minutes with Biff coming up, and more podcasts, and maybe one of these days we'll play a show again.
Yeah.
We've got some offers, so.
Really?
Well, a offer. To be more precise.
Is it Bushwhackers?
No. It was that 7th Circle place.
Oh, yeah.
The dude took 7 months to email me back, and now it's been like 3 weeks since I replied. And still waiting to hear back, so we'll see.
Okay. So you got 6 1/4 more months to wait.
Yep, we're almost there. On behalf of our bandmate Joe, in his absence, this is Dave and Seth, signing off.
Please.